everyone, this is Danielle, also known as Gently Smiling Jaws, and welcome to my Flosstube for March of 2026. This is going to be a shorter video because, as you'll see, I did not do much stitching this month at all. Stitchy Bug had been back the previous month, and I got things finished, and then it was just kind of like, okay, you've done stuff. Now you're not going to want to stitch for a while. It'll come back eventually. It just didn't happen this month. So let's start. The tea that I am having right now, this is from, and I trimmed the top of the bag so you can't see it, but it is Floating Leaves Charcoal Dong Ding for Roast. So it's an oolong that's charcoal roasted, so it has kind of that roasty charcoal flavor in it. Let's see if you can kind of, I may not be able to see the leaves in there too well, but I have been sort of making an effort with my tea. It's been a while since I've bought any tea, and I've been trying to work through some of my stash of stuff. So like, I don't remember when this was bought, but it was in a sealed, vacuum sealed bag, and I had opened it up. This is a can from Tamina Tea, their saffron chai black tea blend tea bag. And I had finished off these tea bags, but it's a nice canister. So like something like this, I'll open it up, but then just go ahead and tuck the bag away in the sealed canister, and then try and make an effort to work my way through the tea. So kind of that's what I've been doing recently, and that's the tea that I'm drinking right now, and it is quite tasty. Let's see. Other stuff as far as cross stitch, before I get into showing what I've stitched. We're past Nashville Needlework Market. I managed not to buy a single thing, which is what I had hoped for. I'm sure at some point in the future I'm going to pick up like PDFs of some patterns, but as I was thinking back to last year, which was kind of the first and only year that I did make quite a bit of purchases as far as patterns and stuff, and I haven't got around to stitching. I don't know if I've stitched it. There's one of those patterns that I got at last year's market. Disagree. That's the one pattern I think from all of that I have actually started and made quite a bit of progress in stitching, although I'm not done with that yet. And so knowing that my goal this year was to work kind of down through kind of work my way through some of the stuff I have started, and not that I can't start anything, but just knowing that finishing some stuff was going to be my goal. Like, I don't really need to buy anything. I did go and look and see some of the patterns that were put out, and some, were certainly nice and stuff that I'd like to get down the road, but I managed not to buy anything, which for me this year I was very happy about. So there was that. The other thing, I know I mentioned in my last video, one of the things I talked about was Stitchy Princess, who is a cross-stitch designer, has an Etsy shop. I think I saw that she had hard copies of patterns that were being sold at market as well. But if you follow her on social media, you'll know that she lives in Ukraine and her home has been damaged, and so she's working to try and repair that. So if you are looking for something to stitch and wanting to order something, maybe check out her patterns and see if there's something of hers that you would like to pick up. And I will, I think like last time, I'll have a link down in the description, and I will also, as always, put a link down in there for where to buy eSIMs for folks in Gaza to help them communicate, like I always have down there as well. And obviously there's lots more stuff going on in the world, but for this video, this is going to be a short one, and yes, I'm not going to be really getting into too much of that, but yeah. Okay, so my stitching for this month. I stitched on one single project. I did not get to any of the stuff that I wanted to work towards finishing of like my own temperature pattern, and I think there was like something else that I wanted to work towards finishing when I did my video last month. Didn't happen. I had been working in February on the heart sampler, and I wasn't ready to put it down just yet, so I stitched on it some more. My first thing was I had finished up this with the rib cage and the heart. That was like, I at least want to get that done. So I did that, but I wasn't quite ready to be done. So then I did this frame area. I haven't done the part that goes inside. But then I thought, well, maybe I can continue this part across and at least get the width of this done. And I didn't get that far. I got this far, and then decided I'd had enough of this for now, and so it's going to be set back down for a while, and I'm going to move on to something else. But, you know, I feel like I made good progress on it this year, because last year I started it on Valentine's Day. I worked on it some, and then it got set aside to work on other things, and I never got back to it. So I feel like I made a good chunk of progress. I don't have an exact stitch count written down, but I think I got about 700-ish stitches in. And so I'm happy with that. I didn't bring in my little card that has all the info, but this is a 46 count fabric from Be Stitch Me. Maybe Strawberry Shortcake? I don't know. It's in my last video, and these are all Silks For You colors, except for the white, which is actually DMC, is it Blanc or Ecru? I think maybe I'm using Ecru for that, but it's in my last video. I have this all written down on a little card that I keep in the bag, but I did not bring the bag in here with me. So yeah, that is the only actual stitching I have done for this month. But, you know, I am happy with my color choice, which ended up, you know, I had bought a number of kind of pink red fabrics from Be Stitch Me. I had ordered them late 24. Towards the end of 2024, I put in my order with Be Stitch Me, and then the fabrics all arrived, you know, early 2025, in time for me to pick what I wanted and start on Valentine's Day of last year. And once I decided that this is the fabric I was going to do, you know, I had thought I was going to use like a bright red, it's like that, but once I picked this fabric, I changed course with what I was going to pick for the floss. So I went, I had also done a Silks For You order around the time I ordered the fabric, and so I have, you know, red and stuff, thinking I was going to go that route, but then I also had some other colors, and so I chose from that, and that's how I ended up with this palette, because I thought it went better with the fabric that I chose. So the one project that I actually worked on, there we go. The other thing I want to show is a project which I didn't work on, but I'd had it as what I wanted to pick up next, and then I just haven't been stitching, so I didn't actually do it. This, as I've shown before, is Perky Lion from Marumi Designs. It is on a 20 count Aida from Banana Oil, and the floss is why am I blanking on the floss? This, I do have the bag so I can grab it, and I am forgetting it. It is Moe's Sail Silk in mustard. I have in here mustard, plum, and pear, and I want to use all these colors to do different ones of the various designs that Miriam has with these animals, and do them on this piece of fabric. So this is next to pick back up, and I don't know exactly how many stitches I have left to do. I know in Pattern Keeper I have that noted in there, but I think that this is going to be what I pick up next. Maybe I'll get it finished. I know it's not that much that I have to do. It's, you know, finishing the lion's body and then doing a border around, so it's not that much. It's, you know, a ways, but not that much. And so maybe I will just go ahead and push through once I get this started. And I will say that I know part of the reason that I didn't get more stitching done this month, and that's because I was watching the Corey Richins trial, which wrapped up sort of sooner than expected, which was fine with me because those trial days were very long. Obviously, I work, so I can't be watching it during the day when it's happening, so I would come home from work and be watching the trial, you know, sort of with commentary on 2 times speed or faster to try and listen to as much of the trial as I could, while not going crazy of spending, you know, having a full day of listening in the evening when I would come home, because there's no way that was going to work. And so for me, I would be kind of half listening to that while doing other things, but there was also other things I wanted to teach as well. And so how I stitch and listen to stuff on my tablet is a little different when there's multiple things I'm trying to keep track of. That wasn't gonna work, and I just couldn't get myself to go and sit and stitch and focus on one thing. I was doing other things and listening to the trial and also keeping track of some other things at the same time, and that is not conducive to stitching. So, you know, like I've said before, every time I sit down to stitch, even if I don't really feel like stitching, if I sit down to stitch, I find it enjoyable. Just recently, I haven't been able to get myself motivated to sit down and stitch, but this is going to be next on my list after I finish up filming this video. I'm going to put it in my hoop so that it's in the hoop. I'm going to put the hoop in my stand so that it's all there, ready and waiting for when I next go to sit down, and I will put away the heart sampler for when I'm next ready to work on it. So that is all of the stitching and my stitching plans for this video, but there is one more thing I want to talk about. Hey, this is Editing Danielle here. I am editing my Flosstube video much more last minute than I normally do, but I think just with stitching and everything in general, I was just having a case of the I don't wannas, so I am doing this later. However, because I am doing this later, after I recorded my video, I saw an Instagram post from another cross-stitcher, Books on the Moon, and I will link to her down in the description. But it brought up a question that I am sort of struggling with on, well, there's one project in particular, and there's other, it's come up with some other things as well. But she had posted something asking about how, you know, asking how other stitchers, how they deal with either, you know, whips or projects, whether it's the pattern part of the project or the supplies used in the project, where you have this stuff, but you no longer really want to support the designer or where those supplies came from, and so you're trying to figure out how exactly you handle it. And she had listed in there, you know, like kind of options of, you know, whether you still stitch it and like show it whether in a Flosstube or somewhere online, but specifically say that you don't support that particular, designer or company or whatever. Or if you stitch and show it, but you don't credit, or name the person or company, or whether you had a different option. And I've been thinking about that. At least at this point, I haven't actually posted a comment in response to her post, but I've been thinking about it. And I will say that there is some floss that I have had around sometime before I knew sort of the background as to what was going on with that company. And I have used that in I think there's one project in particular that I can think of, and I specifically don't name that company if it comes up. It's like I have the materials on hand and I've already bought it, so there's that, but I specifically don't mention that company because I don't want to promote them. I guess the project that's on the top of my mind right now is the Multiply Kindness Hands Across the Sea whip. And I'm not that far into it. I started it like last year and I haven't gotten that far. And my issue is how much they've been using generative AI, and it's been coming up on their Instagram posts, and now it seems to actually be in products that they have created. And I don't know, maybe it's been in some projects going back, because I guess looking at their patterns, I had always sort of wondered, not necessarily about the pattern itself, but I know they use kind of the old-fashioned looking images of like children and stuff, because a lot of their patterns are historical samplers. So I don't know the origin of the artwork from stuff, ages ago in their patterns, but because the generative AI images have been showing up in their Instagram more recently, and I have not attempted to comment on any of their posts, but I know that it seems like the people who have made comments, even if they are mild, it seems like all the comments get deleted, and I'm assuming they're blocking the people, but I don't know. So that just leaves a very bad taste in my mouth. And since I'm not that far into that pattern, I'm right now I'm leaning towards just abandoning the whip entirely and not bothering to stitch on it. And I do have other patterns from Hands Across the Sea, but they're all PDFs, so they're not something I can just like give away or sell off. I guess I just won't stitch them. But that's sort of where I'm headed right now on that in particular. I do have other patterns in my collection where I think we all have plenty of patterns where we get a pattern and then we just ultimately decide that that's not something, although we were called to it at one point, we decide we don't, compared to everything else that we have in our to be stitch, that it just hasn't moved up to the top of the list. But then I have other ones where, since I've got them, I have, sort of learned things that it puts me on the fence about whether or not I want to actually stitch them. And if I do ultimately decide to stitch them at some point, am I going to want to show them, because I don't necessarily want to promote people. So I'm just curious as to what other people's thoughts are as well. But as of right now, I'm considering abandoning that whip. If I was further along in it, then that might change my mind and I would just, finish it because I was close to being done. But because I have so much left to do, I think that when I would sit and stitch it, I would be cranky about doing so, because I would be thinking about everything going on, sort of behind this and then the use of AI, and it would make me cranky. And this is one where I had bought most of the Avera swab, but there was a couple colors I couldn't get, so I don't have all the supplies anyway, and maybe I just stop. I don't know. That's where I'm thinking on that, and now I'm gonna go and splice this audio into my video and get it edited so I can get it posted in time. All right. And that is a printer. I had gone, because I was wanting to do some journaling, I pulled out my Canon selfie printer that I have had. I actually went and looked. I have had it for 10 years. I pulled it out a while ago, went to print out a picture, and it didn't work. And that made me very unhappy, because I have had this printer for a long time, and I got it specifically because it's, what is it? I guess is it technically like a dye sub printer? It's not inkjet, so it doesn't have like an ink cartridge that's going to dry up if you don't use it. The cartridge that it has uses film, so it's kind of like the yellow, cyan, magenta film, and then the clear kind of cover to kind of seal everything up that goes on. So printer, it has a special paper that you use, and it goes back and forth and puts down one color and the next and the next, and then the top coating. And for me, as somebody who wants to print photos but infrequently, this was great, because whenever I would want to print them, small little printer, it just prints like 4x6 photos. I could bring it out, print a couple things, and then it would be fine to sit for months until I was ready to print again. And I think the last time I had shown, kind of stuff to do with it on this channel was when I was working on, which I have to get back to, my reading journal, where I would print out the book covers on that and then just cut I'd print a bunch on one photo sheet and then cut out the little book covers. Well, when I went to pull out, my selfie, I think it was a selfie CP1200, and it was having issues. Like I said, I was upset about it, and I really didn't want to buy a new printer. So I was looking online. I was trying to find what the possible causes of the issue could be. I found a couple things. I got, because I didn't have any on hand, I got a small, inexpensive set of screwdrivers for electronics that are, the small screwdrivers, but so they have a long thing on them so that you can get down to the recessed screws and take those apart. So I looked online. I ripped that printer apart probably around 4 times. I took it apart, tried various, fixes for things, put it back together, and, it had been giving me one error message, and then, there was a number of error message it was giving, and after I tried taking it apart, putting it back together, multiple times, it kept going through various ones where it would tell me that, it would tell me there wasn't paper when there was paper in the tray. It would tell me that the cassette was empty when it wasn't. It would tell me that the cassette had slack in the film and I needed to fix that. And so no matter what, it kept giving me errors. The couple times I did get it to print again, it printed the photo, but it only on part of the thing, half the photo was not there. So the printer was 10 years old. I gave it a good try. I was determined to try to fix it before I caved in and bought another one. But because one of the things I had done in an attempt to fix things was I had bought a new pack of the ink cartridge and the paper, and obviously I had that left over. And so I ultimately decided to buy the newest version of that printer, which is the Selfie CP 1500. And I did look because there were less expensive, like the little portable printers that use like the zinc technology. I guess it prints on like thermal paper, and sometimes it's sticker paper and it's like that. And I did look into that, but because it's on thermal paper, I guess, the prints aren't going to, last. They, aren't going to last forever. They will, degrade over time. And I just, ultimately determined, well, I'm not going to go that way. I know there's also small little Polaroid printers that you can do that will do, kind of small little Polaroid photos. But for how I wanted to use these images in journals, I didn't want that thickness of photo. So ultimately, I replaced my printer. So it's a small little printer. I still haven't taken the plastic off the little screen here yet. And this is where the little paper tray goes in there. And then when it prints, the print will, picks up the paper, it slides it out the back, and it goes back and forth a few times before it spits out. And the cartridge here slides in there and prints on it. I wish that the, with the cartridge, because of how it is, there's going to be, plastic waste from that. And I wish it wasn't like that, but this seemed to be the best solution. Replacing the printer I had with the current model seemed to be the best solution for my need of having a photo that's, sort of as regular photo-like as possible. But being okay to not, like an inkjet where if you don't print frequently enough, everything dries up and then you have issues with it. So this seemed to be, because I don't think my printer, my previous one, had this option. Maybe it did and I just didn't know. And I don't know how well this is going to come across on the camera here. But I think, let's see. I think this is the regular version, but there's different things you can do. I mean, there's the color ink and then the clear that goes down over the top of it. And pretty sure this is just, I wrote it on the back. This is the gloss. So, and there's perforations here on either edge. And so you pop those off and then it's, kind of more like a regular photo. This is the regular gloss. But you can also do, this is the semi-gloss. So not as shiny. And then this is the satin. And I think that since this is dye sub, I think it uses like heat to like take that film and get it on to the onto the paper. And so I think it's something using that, and it's how it's applying that clear film to whether it's as glossy as possible or, kind of one of these other options. And so I thought that was sort of interesting because, like I said, I don't think my previous one had that option. But the other thing, and this was from looking online, because if you look online at people who, where their main subject is like journaling, and they talk about these, little portable printers and why they may use particular ones. But I had seen, because these are more like, your regular photo paper. They've got a thickness, although they aren't super thick, they've got a thickness and a stiffness to them. But if you're going to be putting the images into a journal, and I'll show you because I have started in my little cross-stitch journal, my weeks that I use for that. I have started putting in a photo of when I finish something. So when I was looking at some of these other, YouTube channels with people who do journaling, I started coming across some people where they would take their printout from here, and if they were going to put it in a journal, because this is thicker, they would take, and because it's a thick paper, you can, if you get your fingernail or tweezers or something in there, you can split the paper. You can like peel off some of the thickness so that it's a lot thinner and makes your journal a lot less bulky. So that's what I did with this. I went back to where I finished, did some finishes. So like here, I printed out a little picture of Joel Bakken, and I have adhesive on the back, but then I just also used a little washi tape to stick it in place there. So that is there. And then I also added in, when I did All Treats, No Tricks, just printed out another little photo of that. And then when I did Freedom Motif Sampler, I did a photo of that as well. And so that's sort of my plan going forward, is that as I finish things, I will print out a photo and stick it in here. So then not only do I have a record of kind of what I was stitching on when, but that I have an image of the finished piece when it is finished. And the other thing with this printer is that there is, I think there's various things you can do. There's an app that Canon makes to work with it. So like these three, I printed them all out at the same time. I was printing out other stuff, but you can, the app lets you put like multiple pictures on one sheet. And then I think there's other things you can do as well. Other programs you can use to get things just the way you want it and then print it through the Canon app. But yeah, I just figured that I would mention that because if you're looking for something like that, whether it's specifically for cross stitch like I have in here, or if you're doing any other type of journaling, or just want something to print photos but you aren't a super frequent photo printer, I think that it was I like the first printer that I had. I wish it hadn't died, but I figured 10 years is actually a decent, amount of time for something like that. And hopefully this one will last me quite a while as well. And yeah, so I thought that might be helpful. I think, let's see. I think at least that's all that I had in my notes of what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully I will have some of my stitching bug back for April and have some more stuff to show next month. We'll see how it goes. All right. Well, thank you for being here for this shorter video for March. If you're stitching, I hope you get in more stitching than I have been recently, and I will see you in April. Thanks for watching. Bye.